we're going to try and help out some other people who might benefit from coaching. And, as of course, I'm a physician. I've been practicing for 11 years and I'm also a life coach. And you have been one of my first clients, which is very cool because we're also friends outside of this relationship. But now you've been one of my clients for you've been kind of the client I've had for one of the longest clients I've had so far. And it's super exciting for me because it is a way for physicians who are in practice who have now become coaches to give back to medical students in a totally new way. Of course, you have mentors in the medical profession, you have peer advisors in the medical profession, but as a coach who's a physician, I just think that this is, if I had a coach, at a stage where a medical student is, it would have been amazing. But that's of course how we think. And, this is an opportunity for us to figure out what is coaching for a medical student like, and kind of what you thought it was going to be in the beginning and where it's led you to. So I'll just start by asking if you can tell us, what you thought coaching was going to be like, and did you have any idea of what it could be like when we first started?
I thought coaching was going to be more of a therapy session.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of therapists. I assumed it would be more just like any of my previous therapy sessions. No, I've never really had anybody that I'm close to ever have coaching.
Would you say that you really kind of signed on with me because you knew me personally?
Yeah, because I know the kind of physician that you are. Having spoken to you in the past, I know you could, regardless of what it ended up being, I know you could help me.
Okay, and so for somebody who doesn't have a physician friend, who's maybe further along in the physician process, who hasn't had a coach, what do you think would be important for them to know about a coach before taking them on as a coach? For example, I mean, we're here for the student, so the student has to make a choice of, which type of coach to have.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's necessary to know the person ahead of time, or do you think it doesn't matter?
I don't think it matters at all. It just helped me. It helped initiate or start the process. It helped me put a foot in the door, but it's definitely not necessary. It's that is like a therapist. I mean, they either work or they don't work for you. So yeah, I don't think it's necessary to know the coach. They're either going to work or not.
Mm-hmm. As you may reflect back on, some of the first sessions or even the first session, and kind of like what it was like for you to talk about your life as a medical student, and even some background personal information that you were sharing. Can you talk with us about what that was like for you? If you remember anything about those first couple of sessions?
First couple of sessions, I was in crisis mode because I was taking step one. We were just trying to figure out how to get me to step one, I think. So I think the beginning was more or less like therapy, because just trying to get to the finish line for that test. I think it is a little more difficult to do real coaching in crisis mode. I did get a lot out of it still. I can't recall. I remember the first session being really profound. Like, had me realize something about my anxiety. Treating it like somebody with diabetes. They're just their health issue. I never saw it as the same. But after that session, I got to thinking, it's not really that much different than any other health issue. I blamed myself for my anxiety for a long time. I remember coming away from that session thinking, I really don't have anything to really blame myself over. There's nothing wrong with me. I have a mental health disorder. There's nothing wrong with that. It just is what it is.
And so during medical school, with the anxiety and with having some medications on board from either the school psychiatrist or otherwise, you were also in therapy sessions, and now you've had some coaching sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Talk with us about how you find them to be either completely different or complementary or similar. What do you think?
My sessions in medical school, the school therapist had tried to, so when I went to them, I was in crisis mode as well. And I think it's hard for anybody to improve with anything in crisis mode. You're just trying to deal with the crisis at hand. It was more just venting, just calming down because it was pretty bad the couple times I went to them. I think she had tried CBT with me and didn't work. Either I just didn't connect with her or she just wasn't as proficient with it. I'm not sure. And then my school psychiatrist, I would go in and vent a little, and then we would try different medications. So that was the extent of my therapy in school.
Do you recall what sessions were like and what your feeling was coming out of the sessions? And just for people who don't know, CBT refers to cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's one of the techniques used by psychotherapists and other therapists and psychologists, psychiatrists. And the coaching work that we learn has components of CBT in it, but it's not solely CBT, but it is all having to do with mindset. So having both modalities, coaching versus CBT during therapy, and knowing that they both kind of work on mindset, tell us how you came out of therapy sessions versus coming out of coaching sessions in mindset work.
So how I would come out of therapy sessions is like taking Tylenol for a headache. Never really fixed anything. It just felt a little better
Mm-hmm.
after coming out of venting.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we always would try medicines at
Mm-hmm.
some point. So that was really all I would get out of therapy. Just, I guess I felt like I had a plan after I left each session. Like,
Mm-hmm.
try this medicine, or I don't know, it was going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that ever really changed was my medicine regimen. Never really had a plan of how to tackle what was really going on, which was my mindset. After each of our sessions, I felt like there was always something profound learned about how I frame things, about how I think, about how my thoughts lead to actions, and those actions lead to results. In the beginning, we had so many of those. I always feared that it would just die out, um, as it has with some of my previous therapists, but never really died out. We kept on digging deeper and deeper. And even though, we had many profound things happen after our sessions, I still would, falter, which is okay. But so I think that's always going to happen. So I don't I don't see it dying out. Like, I don't see life coaching ever not being useful for me, at least. So
Do you think that there were certain thoughts that you were holding on to strongly prior to coaching that you're learning to either accept or even replace with new thoughts, new beliefs?
yeah, it's what I had said before, how my anxiety is not anything wrong with me. Or I developed psychogenic dizziness, and there's nothing wrong with that, even though it's frustrating to deal with. Every time I would get dizzy, I would feel like there's something wrong with me, and it would just compound on itself, and it would snowball into something even bigger. And it's just a lot of unpleasantness. So I've learned that there's nothing wrong with it, and I just learned to accept it. And in doing that, I calm myself down, and it doesn't snowball. Sometimes it still snowballs, but most of the time it doesn't snowball. Dealing with difficult attendings, that's been something I still struggle with, but it's helped me get through a rather difficult couple of weeks on my acting internship. The old me, so when I was doing my rotation before this, I had a lot of feelings of being unworthy and not belonging in the hospital, even though I am exactly where I should be. I'm a fourth year med student doing his rotations. I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm still learning. And during my previous rotation, I really struggled with those feelings of nervousness, and it's stemming from not feeling adequate. But
Mhm.
after our coaching session, I've really reframed that into, I do belong here and I am worthy, even if my attending's going to get annoyed at me. Let him get annoyed at me. I'm exactly where I should be.
Okay. And I remember you came to me saying, I have anxiety, and that's why I can't, and then fill in the blank, right? I
Hmm.
have panic attacks, and that's why it's harder for me.
Hmm.
And I remember we had this kind of transformative session both times, once when we talked about anxiety and once when we talked about panic attacks. And correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I remember, the thought that you came up with that helped you, that served you, was I have a medical diagnosis, which is anxiety and panic disorder, and that is my diagnosis. And that is not something I need to get rid of. It's something that I have. It's part of me, and that's okay.
Yeah, and after feeling like, I mean, I guess I've had these almost like doom, like I'm never gonna finish medical school because my anxiety, and I'll be in the hospital taking a break, just washing my face off in the bathroom and looking at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, I'm gonna do this. I've gotten this far, and I will manage. I will manage in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
It excites me so much to hear you say that, there's been progress made in your own mindset as a result of coaching. And if you had to give advice to a first year medical student or anybody that's in the medical journey starting from pre-med onwards, and you talked about coaches who are physicians providing coaching for people in the medical journey starting from the medical student, onward. Can you just tell us what would be your best advice for somebody when it comes to coaching by a physician, and how it might be different if you were coached by somebody who wasn't a physician?
I I equate it to when I was in New York. Um, I had a gay doctor, and as a gay man, I just connected with him so much better. He became kind of like my therapist, and the level of care that I received from him just through that shared connection was just far superior than any other primary care doctor I've ever received care from. I moved to Central Pennsylvania, and now I have a straight doctor, and it's just different. And this has been the exact same thing. Therapists that I've ever had in the past have all been not physicians. So especially the school therapist, she's not a physician. So while she's surrounded by medical students, she's never gone through it, and it's not her fault. It's just that there's just a little bit of disconnect there that I don't feel with you because you are a physician. When I was really stressed about USMLE 1, only you would be able to understand that because you took it and you went through it, and you know how much of a monster it can be. Even if you didn't yourself feel like it was a monster, you've had classmates that I'm sure felt like it was insurmountable. So you understand.
Chris, I'm going to test you. Is that a fact or a thought
Is what?
that USMLE is a monster?
That's a thought. That's a thought. See, I would have said it was a fact before.
Mm,
Good
yeah.
at deciphering the difference between thoughts and facts.
So now that you know the difference, how does that help you?
How to explain it? I'm gonna put it into words. It prevents like step two in the future. Helps me tackle it. Just helps me tackle it. when something's a fact, it's much harder to get around it, wrap your mind around it, because your brain's telling you it's a fact, and it is scary, and it is going to be difficult. Whereas now I'm like, okay, the thought that it might be difficult is a thought, not a fact. Might actually be easy. Who knows? So gotta just study and hope for the best.
Step 2 might be easy is our new thought. I love it.
That might be.
How fun. Yeah, because what if somebody had that thought? It would be a totally different experience studying for step 2, right?
Yeah, I mean, people have told me it's easy. I mean, more people have told me it's hard, but um, it's a possibility, so that makes it a thought.
And what we obviously look at in coaching is if there's a thought, and it could be that the test is harder, the test is easy, both could be true, both could be your thoughts. And then
Yeah.
you totally get a choice.
Yeah, I get a choice in how I react to it. I think that's what I was getting at earlier. Instead of being scared and being filled with anxiety, have the choice of looking at it as it might be easy and I can do it.
Yeah.
Easy, but surmountable.
Have you kind of thought of, now that we have several sessions under our belt and we've gotten through the crisis, right, of step 1, and we've humanized the diagnosis of anxiety and panic attack, like it's a disorder, but it is also part of you. So how do you plan to use the tools you've used in coaching, even if you don't have a coach
Yeah.
coaching you weekly? Like, let's just say we've ended our sessions. How do you think you want to use it going forward? So you'd mentioned step 2. Any other examples?
Yeah.
Like, what about beyond
I
school?
mean, everything.
Okay.
It really can be used for everything. It's not just med school. Because, I mean, med school is only 4 years, but it's not just, this doesn't just pertain to medicine, it pertains to everything. My anxiety doesn't just revolve around medicine, it touches every aspect of life. And what I've learned in coaching can be used in almost every situation.
Awesome. Okay. I think this was great. If there's anything else you want to add, feel free. But I think it would be amazing to have this be an ongoing series in which we do a little bit more coaching, like maybe a few weeks or months down the line, we kind of see what new thoughts are coming out of it, what new applications are coming out of this coaching for you as a medical student. And maybe we'll still be coaching together as you progress beyond medical school. That would be pretty cool. It'd be almost like a continuity project.
Yeah.
And yeah, we can just keep letting people know that this is the continued benefit. And I hope
Yeah.
that people watching this who are pre-med or medical students see that there's absolute benefit no matter what you're dealing with, whether or not you have a diagnosis that pertains to mental health. If you're a medical student, I know that Chris has done some research work, so you could be a researcher. You could be thinking about what kind of physician you have for yourself, for your personal care, and there's so many other applications. So I'm excited, and let's go ahead and share this as widely as possible, as long as I have your
Yeah.
permission, Chris.
Yeah. Like, I wish I had this opportunity earlier on in my medical education, especially, during the first 2 years when you're really, I mean, when you start medical school, it's kind of like you're pushing the restart button. And if I had had this in the beginning, I honestly think I could have I could have like just gotten a little further than I did. This has helped me progress. But the earlier you start, the better. Yeah, if I had to recommend anybody starting medical school, it'd be great to have this as a resource.
Earlier the better. Got it. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you so much, Chris.
Yep.